Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Friday, the 14th of August, 2026. I'm your host, Calixte George Jr. In addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can also get us at our website, rcistlucia.com. And we are also streaming live on our Facebook page as well as on YouTube. And you just have to search. And of course, please like as well that link on Facebook. If you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. That's our direct line number. And you can also reach us via our WhatsApp number. That is 284-6001. You can call in and you can message in as well to that number. Again, it is 284-6001. Well, we look back in time on this day for August the 14th. And back in the year 1281, during Kublai Khan's second Mongol invasion of Japan, his invading Chinese fleet of 3,500 vessels disappeared in a typhoon near the Japanese coast. It was 1842 on this day, August the 14th. U.S. Army Colonel Worth declared the Second Seminole War over. After nearly 7 years, over 3,000 surviving members of the Seminole Nation were forcibly relocated from Florida to Oklahoma, with only 300 permitted to remain. 1945, victory over Japan Day, VJ Day. The Empire of Japan surrendered unconditionally to the Allies, ending World War II. And August the 15th in Japan and other countries, depending on the time zone that was applied. 1947, on this day, Pakistan gained independence from the United Kingdom. 1969, on this day, the British Army deployed on the streets of Northern Ireland, beginning Operation Banner. And in 1980, on this day, August the 14th, 17,000 workers strike at the Lenin shipyard in Gdansk, Poland, beginning what is known as the Solidarity Movement. And on this day, in August the 14th, 1040, King Duncan I of Scotland was killed in battle against his first cousin and rival, Macbeth, who succeeded him as king. And he was not murdered in his sleep, as in William Shakespeare's play. We now move on to our dish of the day.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program for today. And we do hope that everybody's having a good one. And of course, it is the beginning of another weekend. And there will be some cricket on this evening, of course, up at the Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds. And the Kings will be at it again, looking for a win this time. Unfortunately, not a great performance. Not enough runs on the board in their match against Antigua and Barbuda back on Wednesday. Their first match in St. Lucia, against, of course, in a home crowd, cheering them on. They'll be a little bit disappointed from that, and hoping to perhaps, get some excitement and hopefully a good crowd to come out to see the St. Lucia Kings as the Caribbean Premier League continues this evening at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. Now, yesterday, in fact, one of our callers raised the matter of, I think, some statements that were being made in connection with the matter of the long proposed north-south link road And that proposal has been around for some time, and it's taken on some different nomenclature over the time in terms of how it was has been described. In fact, it goes far back to perhaps the 1997 Contract of Faith put forward by the St. Lucia Labour Party heading into that election in May of 1997. And one of the proposals within their manifesto was that of development of a 4-lane highway from Castries to Vieux-Fort, effectively, pointing out the need for a quicker and perhaps also more comfortable drive between the north of the island, where, of course, the capital and the center of population, the largest city, the Castries Grosley conurbation, exists with easily about 90,000 or so people, 90, maybe a little more than that by now, maybe about 100,000 or so persons living in those two northern districts of Castries and Grosley, and making up about 55% of the population of St. Lucia, highest concentration of population that exists. And linking that region, which is of course also the area where you've got a lot of the hotel and touristic infrastructure set up along that northwest coast of St. Lucia. And linking that with the south of the island, which had for a very long time had been cast as the new frontier for development, Vieux-Fort, along with its international airport, which was a result of the generosity of the Canadian government in taking what was the Bean airfield from the 1940s and effectively expanding on the east-west runway 1028 is the runway there, and taking that and expanding it from a 5,000-foot runway to a 9,000-foot runway. We've got an international airport. We've had one for about 50 years now, and of course, however, the amount of development in terms of tourism in the south has been muted in comparison with what eventually developed in the north of the island. And so the need for creating that link between the north and the south has been a matter of interest and for a lot of people to be able to get a safer, more comfortable drive, and of course a quicker one as well. It's not a very long distance between Castries and Grosley as the crow flies. In fact, I think if you look at it, it's really about just 31 kilometers between Castries and Vieux-Fort if it were a straight line. The reality, however, is that it works out to be about, I think, 60 kilometers between Castries and Vieux-Fort, just about. And so as a result of that, of course, it's because of all the bends and curves and the topography that is certainly somewhat challenging in that regard. So there was a proposal for quite some time to the idea of having sort of a motorway, if you like, or certainly a dual carriageway road that would allow for certainly better alignment, both vertically and horizontally, better, broader curves to allow for greater speeds around curves, and a more comfortable drive for those who sometimes traverse the West Coast Road. You would note that some people end up getting car sickness as a result of all those bends and those movements. And so, of course, yes, it is certainly something that can really potentially transform the nature of how the island operates. And by that I mean there is this idea, for example, that we've had for some time. Well, you need to have two of everything to be able to somewhat function in the case of our services that are available for people out there, right? And so the idea of having two ports and two airports and two hospitals is in part because of this idea that the island has it's a good way to go in terms of the distance, in terms of travel, albeit, of course, it's only about an hour's drive between Castries and Vieux-Fort. Of course, it can be a little bit longer, but just about. And, of course, the other factor being the fear of what could potentially happen in the event of a breakage due to some sort of significant weather event, as we've seen in the past, like Hurricane Thomas, which led to not just flooding. Of course, that was a major problem in the Bexar area as well as parts of Mabuya, but as well the challenges with the disruption that comes with landslides in the Bardlil area. And I think that is something that in very many people's minds has always been a bit of a threat. Could potentially more be done in terms of the that section of roadway in respect to the Bardlil? Possibly so. But certainly the idea of having another link, an alternative route to what was back in the 1920s known as the Goldsbury Road, because of the administrator of the time who was pushing for its construction, which at the time was to bypass another road, which was already in existence, but was somewhat of a horrendous route, that of the Barra Barra. It, of course, was developed and was seen to have been a better route because it effectively utilized more of the valley areas to be able to connect, and so there was a shorter area to cut across in terms of that Bardlil. Now, it's interesting because a number of the proposals that have been looked at, some of them actually are going through. One of them is to in fact reinstate that route of the Barra Barra, all right, and which would effectively mean going up to a higher elevation, as well as going through areas that are pretty well forested, and in addition to that, also susceptible to landslides. So that's one of the options that has been proposed. There was also an option of a proposed tunnel at one point in time. Again, looking at the Cul-de-sac Valley and the Mabuya Valley and linking those two valleys via a tunnel instead of actually going uphill and then downhill again and having lots of cuts and what have you. And that is something that could certainly potentially be looked at. I don't think we've actually had any proper feasibility study on the matter of that tunnel, believe it or not, although it has been touted in the past. I don't believe there's ever been a feasibility study looking at it specifically, to look at the challenges. Of course, one of the major challenges would no doubt be the geology of that particular area, and how easily it would be to actually engage in the boring through of that area, assuming, of course, that you would have to be engaging in, because of the height, the elevation, distance, in an actual bored tunnel as opposed to a cut and cover tunnel. But of course, even so, you've got to look at what material is there, what is the geology of it, and how easy it would be to, in fact, drill through some areas. The harder the rock is actually, to some degree, is better for you, because then you've got a more stable area for boring. But that area known to be pretty, a lot of clay materials, and so it's a very interesting situation. But of course, there would have to be a proper geotechnical assessment done to look at those things and to then assess how the cost involved, in fact, in constructing such a potential tunnel. The thinking, of course, at that point as well is that it might be easier to actually look at potentially going through the region of Mac Flowsac, which is a spur of the cul-de-sac valley, instead of actually going further up through the existing Ravine Poisson Bexor area. And the benefit of that as well comes to the fact that we've seen along that highway a significant amount of ribbon development, a significant amount of linear development along the highway. And the highway effectively is a road. It's like quite often a person's street. It's taken on a very developed context, and that poses a lot of problems because you don't have adequate setbacks in some areas. It's very difficult to widen that existing Bexor section of the Castries Vieux-Fort Highway. It has effectively become pretty risky for the public that lives alongside the highway, because here you have individuals who are treating it, commuters who are treating it as if it were a highway. It is called a highway. People are expecting to drive at certain speeds. And then you have, other people who are living right alongside it, who see it more as their front street. And of course, they've got children and they want to walk alongside the highway. So it has taken on that sort of it's a constraint, certainly, in terms of the development along that route. And so effectively, it's not just even about bypassing the Bard Lil, it's also about bypassing a lot of that fringe development, which really calls for areas where people should be slowing down, right? They should be slowing down in these built-up areas because you've got so many people, pedestrian movements, people walking across the highway, people driving onto it, their vehicles. So it's not an ideal situation. It's not a true highway setting in which you would have limited access, you would have proper verges, and that's not existing. And it's very difficult to be able to achieve that within that existing corridor of Bexor and Ravine Poisson, those areas. So certainly, the proposal came about at one point to look at saying, can another route be developed that effectively bypasses the Bard Lil, as well as bypassing Castries, and being able to provide better access to the north. Now, it sounds good, but at the same time, a route like that would have to find a sort of a balance point, because you also have a lot of traffic that is heading north, also heading to Castries. And so, I mean, by the very fact of it, Castries is part of that overall destination that a lot of people are trying to get into. But of course, at the same time, we know that Castries has all the challenges in terms of the inability of the old 18th century, later on sort of expanded after the 1948 fire. That grid in Castries simply cannot accommodate the volumes of traffic that are even present in terms of its own activity, far less the through traffic that is trying to get from the south to head to regions north of Castries. So the issue of effectively a bypass is what is part of that question mark. Now, the thing about bypasses is that you want to be able to place them at a point where they're still providing services, they're still providing relatively good access to regions around the center, i.e. the suburbs, so that people can still get access to them without necessarily going into the center. All right, and that tends to be how you want to try to focus on a bypass. So you can have a bypass that sometimes is too far out, and so therefore becomes unattractive in terms of the amount of traffic that can actually utilize the bypass. So the bypass has to be at this balance point quite often to be able to achieve just that. So again, trying to figure out that right alignment has been part of the challenge in respect of creating an alternative route that would be able to serve a lot of those different purposes. And there was a feasibility study that was done by DWE Consult sometime back in 2001, which looked at about 3 different potential alignments in respect of that north-south road. In the first instance, they effectively looked at the section between Vieux Fort itself and heading north to Dennery. And the thinking there was that effectively the route would remain largely as is, with improvements to the alignments in particular areas, right? So as to improve on the speed at which vehicles could move, and also, of course, the safety of drivers. But the thinking was that largely it would remain a 2-lane road heading north, with some of those improvements, as I said, on some of the curves. So areas that had bends that were way too sharp, or there were areas that they could have been improved on. They looked at those, as well as a proposal in respect of the section to effectively create a bypass of the Monrepos area, the Patience Monrepos area. And so they did propose to look at a different alignment so as to remove that very sharp hairpin bend just below the Patience, known as the Daubion hairpin bend. They were planning on trying to remove that by changing the alignment and to be able to bypass that area. Although that, in fact, was already a bypass of Monrepos in the first instance, but a bypass of the bypass, if you like. And so that was one of the major changes that was being proposed. But by and large, I think about 30 different areas for improvements, which also included some areas where climbing lanes were being recommended for allowing for slower moving vehicles not to interrupt the speed of other vehicles. And so beyond that section, then from around La Puette in Dennery, there was then this proposal for a brand new road, effectively a new alignment that would have crossed over through the Four-Door area, crossed over the Mabouya Bridge, and headed north up that ridge, bypassing Oleor. So it would have run actually east of Oleor, and heading up the to that ridge to then begin a descent, somewhat of a descent into the upper reaches of the Louvet area, and then continuing northwards into Caides. And even then, that route within that section quite likely would have required, according to that study that was done, 2 short tunnels because of the terrain that was being looked at that point. For point of context, the tunnel that was being proposed, for example, I think for the below the Bard Lil between Cul-de-sac and Mabuya, you're speaking about potentially a 3 kilometer long tunnel, maybe a little shorter, 2 to 3 kilometers, depending on the orientation. But we're talking when those 2 tunnels on the northeast coast, they were speaking of tunnels about 300 meters in length. So a bit different, of course, in the context there, and the geology being a little different as well, because of it being closer to the coastline. The rock being a little bit harder in some areas, a little better perhaps for achieving that type of tunneling. So then, of course, to get up to Debara and then to make the descent down into Kakoli and then into the Marquis Valley. And at that point, there were 2 options, well, 3 options actually at that point. One would have been to continue sort of westward through Foasso, Talvan, cutting across the ridge, the Babono Ridge, somewhere around the Hill 20 area, and then down into the Jiwa River, which is the Shock River Valley. And with that route, heading past Balata and eventually getting back onto the part of the Island Bousquet Highway in the vicinity of the Union Agricultural Station, and then a significant junction at Union, which is where there's a roundabout right now. There's, in fact, I think, a proposal for a grade separate junction at that point, and then heading to connect to the Shock roundabout. Well, what is now the Shock roundabout. There too, I think the proposal was for a grade separate half cloverleaf junction, and that would have effectively been that proposed route as to how to connect back into Castries. Now, that was actually seen as the preferred option and the most feasible one that was looked at, partly because it kind of came in between both Castries and Grosley, and it was still allowed for traffic heading into Castries, into North Castries, for example, Sunny Acres and Kareli and Balata and all those areas. It would make it still attractive for those individuals to get onto that highway and then head south. And of course, to allow for other people to head into Castries if that were their desire. While still allowing for commuters north of that highway to still utilize it as well. That was, as I said, seen as the best option, but there were 2 other options. One which was sort of knocked off completely, which was heading through the Corinth Grand Riviere Valley area, and that was seen not to be feasible because of the amount of development that was already existing in that area at the time when that study was done in 2001. And the third option was to then continue northward, heading up to Laguerre, and then heading through the Deramo area. I think there was a third tunnel being proposed in the Deramo area, and then eventually the proposal would have ended up heading into the La Rivière Mita region, cutting across that the Moshi Ridge, heading into Lafayette, and then along what is known as the Ravine Castaigne, which is that ravine between La Retraite and Bonte, and effectively terminating on the La Retraite Road in the vicinity of what is now the Rodney Bay Aquatic Center. Now, when that study was done, like I said, a lot of the development that exists today was not yet there. And so effectively we've seen potential parts of that route have already been compromised in terms of the difficulty now because of the amount of built up number of homes and buildings that have actually come up since in that Laritrette area, as well as the Lafayette area as well. Significantly more housing there over the past 25 years. And so, even that route would now quite likely be very difficult to be achieved, which would mean that to be able to get that northern end, if you like, would probably mean that you would have to look at perhaps taking it even further north, sort of bypassing all of those areas, and then taking it perhaps into the Beauséjour area instead, and perhaps trying to get a terminating point within the Beauséjour area, and potentially, of course, then connecting into Grosley town. So it is, of course, part of the challenge that we have right now is that is a planning challenge, because we're still seeing that these corridors, unfortunately, are not being properly earmarked to say that you're not going to allow for particular development to happen in them, even though the state may not necessarily be at a position to afford the proposal right now. But that is part of the challenge in respect of those types of developments. And so it is part of what certainly has to happen. I mean, even in the case of the Vieux-Fort to Dennery section, many recommendations were made, as I said, in terms of potential improvements, and that can be taken on, because that route is not going to be changing for all intents and purposes, and could certainly still be looked at as a means of bringing more immediate relief to the motoring public, which is, of course, utilizing that road on a pretty regular basis nowadays. Let's take in at this time, we'll end our dish of the day, and so we can take in our weather report.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and insets, mixes and grout. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Vieux-Fort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's all, of course, on the 1.1. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the northeast and southeast near 25 miles per hour or 41 kilometers per hour. Evocation Lagos. The weather is generally fair, hazy and breezy today, mostly cloudy with moderate to heavy showers and isolated thunderstorms tonight and tomorrow. And there is an advisory in here which reads residents and motorists in areas prone to flooding and landslides are advised to be vigilant and exercise caution. Also, small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to brisk winds, rough seas, and reduced visibility. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles is generally fair and hazy with a few showers. Today, mostly cloudy with moderate to heavy showers, isolated thunderstorms, gusty winds tonight and tomorrow. Tropical weather outlook: showers and thunderstorms associated with a tropical wave located about 400 miles or 644 kilometers east of the Lesser Antilles have continued to become less organized. This system is moving into a region of increased upper level winds and dry air, and the potential of development continues to decrease. Although development is unlikely, gusty winds, thunderstorms, and areas of heavy rain are possible across portions of the region tonight and Saturday. Another tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are forecast to be. Let me read this over. Another tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are forecast to be generally conducive for gradual development, and a tropical depression could form this weekend while the wave moves westward or west-northwest across the central tropical Atlantic. Interest in St. Lucia and the rest of the region should closely monitor this progress of these systems. And this has been your weather forecast as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island Style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and thin sets, pieces and grout. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. My apologies. I think I may have said earlier on the defeat by the Antigua, no, it was St. Kitts, that we were playing on Wednesday, and we're going to be playing Antigua tonight at 7 o'clock. Of course, that'll be a rematch from the match we had back in St. Vincent, where the Kings were victorious in that one. I think we've got some calls coming in, so we're going to take in a call at this time. Of course, the number to call in is 4523046. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon.
Hi, caller. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful.
I need to ask you a question. Were letters actually written to the Taiwanese, the French, and I can't remember which other, concerning the SSGF funds?
Oh, I don't know. I really can't say for sure. I've heard a lot of speculation being, I've heard statements being suggesting that. I think at the last meeting, political meeting of the Central Labour Party, that was alluded to by the Deputy Prime Minister, and I think the leader of the opposition may have said something to that effect at some point, that they were copied on some matters, because I think in the case of the Taiwanese, I think they were suggesting that the Taiwanese were providing support to the St. Lucia Social Development Fund, and so they were being written to within that context. Yes. The whole thing is a little bit bemusing at this point.
Yes.
To be quite honest, because for one, there's even a statement which I'm not sure where the leader of the opposition got that sort of statement from, that $110 million has been put into the St. Lucia Social Development Fund. Now, I don't know what time frame he's talking about, right? In that regard, but I don't think it's an annual time frame or even a 3-year time frame or 5. So he should really be giving some greater context to precisely what time frame he's talking about and what program, because the SSDF handles a number of
programs,
right? Inclusive of the Basic Needs Trust Fund, which is funded by the Caribbean Development Bank. And that does a number of interventions, many of which are infrastructural interventions in a lot of sectors, in terms of road access, in terms of water. They've made a number of areas in terms of, looking at poverty alleviation in some areas. And so that's a specific type of program. But they also do a number of other things, whether it's Kudme Setli C, whether it's support for children with, for schooling and, for bursaries and health support and whatnot.
Yeah, and I also know they had this program for the rehabilitation of young men from the prison to rehabilitate them into society, sending them back to school.
Right.
All of now, USAID was sponsoring that through SSDF, but when Trump came in, he took away the USAID.
Right.
So you find all of those friends, you now have to pick up the slack now of getting the money here.
Yes. So I think it's a little bit unfortunate that we're seeing the extent of the politicization of this particular matter in respect of what appears to be a political attack on the Member of Parliament for Castries Central, Mr. Richard Frederick, who, of course, we know from what we've been told is part of is under some investigation. Now, we have not been told exactly what the investigation is as yet by the police. Who are the investigating authority or the Director of Public Prosecution, the Crown Prosecution Service. So it's but then you have that going on, and then you're seeing out there, of course, this maligning of the St. Lucia Social Development Fund by, again, all that you have, based on what we're understanding from this entire matter, is that one person seems to be making an allegation, and then you're now seeing certain checks from the Social Development Fund to that person's name who might be making that allegation. So it's a little bit inconsistent as to how you then tie that into a minister, and then to go to the extent of now trying to label the St. Lucia Social Development Fund in a very, besmirching manner, and, calling them all sorts of other names.
Yeah, because
I mean, that I think is way uncalled for, and is not. Yes. I mean, if we are dealing with this thing very, very clear, and this is my issue of this entire matter thus far. Yeah, because this is a very integral program for the poor and marginalized in the society, and if you care about them, you wouldn't want to destroy that the SSDF. Yeah, and not even that, there's that aspect too, but even the action of the individual who may have posted those checks. Because, and I don't know, I honestly don't know who posted the checks. I don't know if it's the individual whose names are on the check. It could have been somebody else. I don't know. I honestly do not know how that it is. But then I don't know either how that is beneficial to that individual and to other individuals who in fact gain support from the SSDF. Because in very many instances when you're dealing with support for individuals, they actually want to have some degree of confidentiality in how those matters are dealt with. So it actually then would begin to pose a lot of question marks in terms, at least from the perspective of SSDF. I would be thinking, how are we going to create a better system of actually providing support?
Will people be trusting anymore?
Well, there's a lot of that too. I mean, in terms of that issue. And
I don't know if you saw on where I did not see it on Wednesday, but a friend of mine, she called me and she told me she was listening. The former minister, I think Mr. Montut, was on Timothy, and then he was questioning him very deeply, but then in questioning him, some of the same checks went back into the time she told me. Because that's how deep she said Timothy was questioning, and he ended up finding out some of the
checks went into what time?
Into the time they were there.
Into the time, who was there? You talking about?
He was minister of equity, responsible for social SSDF and all those, because I remember one time he was a minister.
Yeah, he was Minister of Social Development.
Yes,
and responsible
so
for
some
SSDF.
of those checks she told me dated back to his time.
Some of
I did
the
not
checks,
see, but she told me.
the checks that are being, you see, because this is what I mean, again, I don't know all the details, but I'm saying, and I don't think any of us know all the details, but I'm not clear as to what those checks are supposed to prove, because the SSDF provides assistance to individuals on a very, very regular basis for a number of different reasons, because in many instances these people cannot afford certain things. Sometimes they are disabled and so therefore cannot work. You have individuals who are going through health crises and so therefore are not able to support themselves or require medical assistance. You have situations of indigence. You've got a number of reasons why they provide income support, right? And remember, this is again coming against the backdrop of, people talking worldwide about the need for a basic income support and government providing. And we know that we have a public assistance program, which is nothing too new or surprising, although that is different, however.
And I realize a lot of people are following that now, because I see Barbados, Guyana, they're trying to go into that same kind of program, because I heard even Guyana is trying to come out with a program like that, poverty, and all of these things. Like Barbados has increased, people kind of following suit of how the program is being carried in St. Louis. Because if you listen, I like listening to the OCM news, and you have the same programs being patterned. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's a worldwide thing. Governments provide support, welfare. I mean, that's what we've called in the past, welfare support, or health subsidies, or health support, or education support. And it's for different reasons, for different purposes. They may come. So in some instances, they may be one-off. In some instances, they may be for a period of time, whether it's 6 months or a year, whatever the case may be, depending on.
I think they also help with build homes for people and things like that.
They also engage in housing support. We've seen a lot of that as well. Not necessarily, through the SSDF, but as well through other agencies that have been providing that kind of support. So, again, I mean, I'm not sure what the argument is. Is that was the person in question that they're saying whose names is appearing there, was that person not eligible? Was that person not deserving of that kind of assistance? I'm not clear as to that aspect in respect of what exactly is being suggested in respect of that particular matter. So I think it seems very much so that it's being forced in that direction to kind of make a point, but I'm not sure that they're making the point.
Especially since according to the European Union, by 2028, they may have to pull back on CIP program and everything. So when that program comes out and you're just trying to mess up that social SSDF program for the different people that you're writing to, what is going to happen to the country? Are you not thinking?
I don't know.
Oh,
I mean,
what?
because you
because today, tomorrow, these things are taken away, and you happen to come back. How do you go back and eat your vomit and say, what are you going to do?
Right.
If you messed it up, you tend to destroy something that the country is really in need of, and I don't see why all of these things.
And there's that aspect too, caller. But let's also deal with the monetary value of what we're talking about. I don't know what the value of it is in terms of the overall support, right? But let's say it's $10,000 or $15,000. I don't really know what it exactly was. But are you really going to try to effectively cast doubt on the entire operations of an entity based on one particular aspect? Because let's face it, there is in all organizations, in all agencies, whether private sector, whether public sector, the reality is that sometimes you have issues of corruption. right?
Yes,
and this is
worldwide.
This is worldwide. You have
Worldwide.
issues of corruption, and issues of corruption are not only about the politicians.
No, because sometimes the politicians have no idea.
You have officials in there, you have officers, you have technical people. And
people that are trying to undermine you, people that are trying to just do all kinds of things.
And you end up with situations where you have corruption, which is why, of course, in all agencies, as best as possible, you've got to engage in having audits. You have to have proper accounting systems in place. You have to be able to show that you have financial statements in place. You also have to show that you have a means of redress. If people can know that things are going on, there's a whistleblower system in place where they know how to be able to make reports on situations like that. You know, in larger organizations, you may have an internal audit function. In other and of course in a lot of the instances where those funds are coming from grant agencies or multilaterals or whatever, there's a monitoring and evaluation aspect of it. There's a lot of reporting that has to go in.
But then I also heard the Prime Minister said there was never any auditing between 2017 up to 2021. There was never any audit done by them in that department. None.
Yeah,
there's nothing to show. But he and them have done the 2022 audit 22. But we're at there's I think it's only something say between 20 and 21 which he has to really bring out. That was done. I don't know. He has not said yet, but he said it is not looking good. What happened in that period?
Yeah. What I would say though, I think it is important that the agencies have governance systems. They have a board, right? They have individuals who are representing the agency, and the agency, I think, has a responsibility to be able to effectively communicate its procedures and how it is handling certain matters. Now, I think that is something that I think the agency needs to be able to take up, right? In their own interest. That, you know, I think you see it too often, and I think there has been somewhat of a regression over the years, I think, in terms of public officers sometimes, or public officials feeling that they shouldn't have to come in to necessarily comment, especially when they believe that certain things are being driven because of politics. They tend to shy away from it, and they don't want to, you know. But there is the potential for reputational risk that has to be considered from that perspective. So I think they definitely do need to look at this matter very closely. I mean, we've seen a similar thing recently in respect of the CIP unit, right? Remember, there was a lot of, we were hearing all kinds of statements being made by particular politicians. Billions of dollars have gone missing. And
they're tripling the money.
And you're hearing this and that, and you know,
and nothing to prove.
Without evidence at all.
And there's no proof. That's the thing. If you're going to say something, you have to show proof of what you say, and you should have all your documents. Everything. Say, well, look, here is what I'm presenting. But you just send things out of the blue. Just letting go any amount of numbers out there, large numbers.
Yeah, and that's what I think is a little bit of for me a little concern.
Is the gentleman that died, I think, what's his name, Mighty Taylor?
Yes.
Are you related to him?
Well, he was married to my aunt, so he's my uncle. Yes.
Oh, okay. That's it was on the news where I saw that you did the eulogy.
Well, I was doing that on behalf of my father, actually.
Oh, okay. Yes. Now, I didn't know the gentleman at all.
Well, yes,
because I suppose when he was in Calypso, I was maybe just an infant.
He last sang in 1967, and then he migrated to Canada at that point. So certainly, so in fact, and in many ways, even his main competitor at the time, I think, was a gentleman named Lord Zandoli.
Oh, I heard of
Lord Zandoli. Okay. So he perhaps continued a little longer into that period of the late 60s. whereas he ended in 1967 at that point. And,
but I heard this played one. I listened to one of his songs. I think Boots. They played one. I think where he sang, and then Boots recited one of his songs in spoken words.
Right.
And it was quite nice, but it's just that they say they have no thing documented, because I suppose Radio San Lucio would have all the things documented.
That is the problem. But we don't
this
know.
This is a place that had everything you could think of,
Yes.
Yes, and everything just went to waste.
That is a major problem that we have. The state of
so, but didn't they pack or put those things in a safe place before they actually shut down? And because they shut down the thing that the people should leave. But since
from my understanding, there were issues with respect to it was under receivership, or there was some action in respect of the receiver not allowing for any movement of the assets, and so I think it seems as in most instances the building was sort of just left in that state.
But
and I don't know that anything ever came of. But
couldn't they have taken the receiver to court? Because these are documents of the state. You cannot hold the documents of the state to ransom.
Yeah.
And if you're really interested in keeping those things safe and documented, you would have taken some action to get all of the documents and put them in a safe place.
It is a very, very good point, caller, and it's something that to take up for sure. Thanks for making that point. But we're going to have to end it here, though.
All right, take care. Have a nice
good
weekend.
one. And thanks again, of course, for calling in. And we'll be back again on Monday, God willing, for another program of the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Do have yourself a very safe and blessed weekend. Watch out for the weather tonight into tomorrow. And we do hope that we have a good weekend in respect of CPL cricket. Take care.
In person, Mr. McPherson. Hey, over me, out on road, enough gal a mad over me. Out on road, enough gal a dead over me. Out on road, enough gal a cry over me. Lad, me baby mother say me bad, me too 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 bad. How much gal alone me alone want have? Make sure you put the same thing in a bank. Put you sweet and put you neat and put you know how to do it. Never do a job and left it incomplete. Put you one time there, your girl spread out like shit. Vital is vital, so a full concrete. Over me, out and run off, gal a mad over me. Out and run off, gal a die over me. Out and run off, gal a cry over me. Lad, me baby mother say me bad, me too 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 too. Well, one man have woman all over the place. How can one have high potential headache? One woman at home, another one a wait. A girl in the dance, give me nothing but face. Two gal buck up and a fight and a trace. One gal a swear me and the next gal a lace. Gal come a request me big bad and grave. I say she hear how much me can rave. I tell her over me, out and run off gal a mad over me. Out and run off gal a cry over me. Out and run off gal a die over me. Lad, me baby mother say me bad, me too 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 bad. Kansas City will a 10 gal me have. New York City 15 gal me have. LA, one gal me have. All of them the gal they have me baby mother. She say but you be your bad, you too bad, you too bad, you too bad, you too bad. Lord, you too bad. How much gal alone you alone want have? Make sure you dash the same thing in a bag. Over me, out and run off gal a mad over me. Out and run off gal a die over me. Out and run off gal a cry over me. Lord, me baby mother say me bad, me too 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 bad, me too. Well, one man have woman all over the place. How can one have high potential headache? One woman at home, another one a wait. A gal in the dance give me nothing but face. Two gal buck up and a fight and a trace. One gal a swear me and the next gal a lace. Gal come a request me big bad and grave. I say she hear how much me can rave. I tell her over me, out and run off gal a mad over me. Out and run off gal a cry over me. Out and run off gal a die over me. Lord, me baby mother say me bad, me too 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 bad.
Whoa, whoa, la, hey, whoa, whoa, la. Only Rasta can liberate the people over hills and valleys too. Don't let them fool you. Don't believe for a minute that they are with you. Jah free the people over hills and valleys too. Don't let them fool you. Don't believe for a minute they don't like you. Why try to make I unhappy? Really I don't know. If it was up to them, my friend, we would never see the sun or the snow. Through that mystical communication within, we keep on coming together. I love to see brothers and sisters looking out for one another. That's the way it should be, not contrary. Stop tearing down each other. Only Rasta free the people over hills and valleys too. Don't let them fool you. Don't believe 1 minute